Welcome back to another video. My name is Henrik and today we're going to be looking at the Citroën E-C4 X. E-C4 X. Very nice. But this car is going to start as a non-electric version at 19,590 euros, which is fairly cheap. But if you get the electric version with the lowest motor, so 136 horsepower motor, it's going to set you back around 36,590 euros. But you can also get our test vehicle, which is going to cost you around 40,590 euros. So let's start off with the design in the front. As you can see, we have the Citroën logo, which is fairly nicely integrated in here, and also some daytime running lights on the side, and also our LED lights in here, which always come standard, which is nice. So you get some LED lights in here. And one thing you got to say about the car, standard equipment on here is fairly decent, so 36,000 might actually not seem as much when you're considering the stuff you get in the inside, the outside for the car. Down here we have some more hard plastic, which is nice because it's obviously easy to replace and not going to cost you much if you mainly use it in the city. You can replace that for a cheap amount. Also under here we don't have a frunk, but we do have, let me quickly open it, we do have the smallest engine, so 136 horsepower. You're mostly going to be able to use 77 horsepower, and you also get 260 Newton meters. If you want to get the bigger engine, that's going to give you 156 horsepower, and that's also going to give you 270 Newton meters, so a little bit more, but it's all going to be front wheel drive. And this doesn't actually look like an electrical engine, it looks like a combustion engine, and you also don't have a frunk in here, so you're not going to have that much space to put your cables in there. And top speed is also 150 kilometers an hour, and 0 to 100 is 9.7 seconds, and we're going to see right now if we can actually get that. Okay, you got an initial punch. There we go, 60. Let's see how long it takes to get to 100. 9.99999. So claimed is, what was it, 9.7, so fairly close to it. That was a fairly straight road. We'll do it one more time, see if we can get it a little bit lower. Doesn't actually feel that bad for 136 horsepower. So 10.61, that was somehow a slope of 1.6%, which I'm surprised by because this is a fairly straight road. Yeah, but best we did get was 9.99, and obviously it's not what the car is meant for. And on the side you can also see which trim level we have, because these 18-inch rims you can only get in the Max variant. You have the U, the Plus, the Max, and also the E-Series. E-Series is going to be the highest one, but the Max gives you these 18-inch wheels, which looks pretty cool, and they also have a braking distance of which we're going to test out now, because I don't know the braking distance, but let's see how fast we can actually get them from 100 down to 0. The car only weighs 1.586 tons, so it should be fairly good. Okay, that's a little bit more than I'd expect, to be honest. We did do one previously, which was 34 meters, so let's see what we got here. 37 meters. Why is it always when I drive, the braking is way worse? Is it because I wasn't in B mode? Yeah, okay. Okay, well, best we were able to get was 34 meters. So yeah, that's a little bit more. So 37 meters, not the greatest, still not bad, but 34 is definitely a lot better. And then let's move on further to the side. We can see that we do have the electric version with the E and also the double dots above them. So as our Germans say, the E, that's what it's called. Because we are on the Stellantis group, so we have the same platform in here, we have some features that are going to be similar to other Opel Astras that we already tested, or for instance the Peugeot 408. For instance, if we go a little bit far away from the car, it's going to give that beeping noise just like in any other Stellantis car. So that is one similarity. And you can also see we have automatically foldable side mirrors. We have blacked out windows in the back, and also keyless go for the front, which is nice. And we can also see on the back here we have our charging port. In here, because we have the smallest engine, we have a 50 kilowatts an hour battery. If you get the bigger one, you can get 54 kilowatts an hour battery. And you can see you can actually load this at a top speed of 100 kilowatts of low charging speed, which is fairly decent. That's going to allow you to go from 0 to 80% in around 30 minutes. We can do a loading test here in a second to see how good that is. And it's going to give you a claimed range of around, why that just close, around 354 kilometers if you get the lower battery version. You can also charge it at the wall box at 11 kilowatts, which is also fairly decent. That's going to be able to charge in complete around 5 hours. That's the only thing we've done so far. So let's actually see what our usage is, and also how much or how fast we can charge it. Let's also take a look at the consumption that we have in here. We can see right now on the digital cockpit we have 70% left and we have 224 kilometers left of battery. If we go over to the fuel consumption, or not fuel consumption, the energy consumption, so the CV value of the car is also 0.29, so a fairly high CV value. And we have a range of around 354 kilometers. Let's actually see what we can get. So 70%, that's what we have left, and 226 kilometers. We can also press the button on the side here to change between the views, and we can see 16.2 kilowatts or kilowatts an hour is what we have been using, and that's in a total distance of 1,562 kilometers. So 16.2 claimed is around 15.3 done 14.9 kilowatts an hour. So a fairly decent range, but if you go over onto the Autobahn, you're definitely going to be using a lot more. For instance, we drove around 250 kilometers on the Autobahn and we got back with around 60 kilometers of range, which is not bad, but still it definitely drives up the consumption obviously a little bit. And on top of that, we only drove around 110 kilometers an hour because otherwise we wouldn't have made it home, which is not that great. So we did just do our loading test and we started from 37% and went up to 93%. That took us a total of 53 minutes, which is fairly long. And that is because we actually, if we look at the loading curve, which you can see right there, the loading that is claimed is around 100 kilowatts. We only got a max of 59. We did start at 37, so if you add around a 0 to 30% or 0 to 80%, that's what it's supposed to be claiming, those 30 minutes. But we definitely didn't get that, and the max, like I said, 59, and then it slowly went down, and when you're at like 80%, it only goes to around 11 kilowatts, so fairly slow. And we didn't actually load that much, so we only loaded 27.51 kilowatts an hour, which is not a lot. And that might be due to temperature. I mean, even though the temperature is perfect, 18 degrees, that's usually what you want to have when you're loading a car. So I really don't know what it depended on. But that's unfortunate we didn't get those 100 kilowatt. Also quickly, the dimension of the car, 4 meters and 60 long, so just like a Volkswagen ID.5 for instance. It's 1.52 meter tall, so not the highest, and 1.80 meter wide without the side mirrors. Side mirrors, which is fairly decent. But we do have this crossover SUV, that's why you also lose a little bit of headroom in the back and also don't have the biggest trunk due to the fact that you have this big window on the back. We can also see the lights here, they go fairly far to the side and then all the way to the back, which is a design feature I'm not the biggest fan of, but one thing I do actually like about this is the diffuser on the bottom. Looks fairly decent. Again, we do have plastic on here, but that's just going to allow for easy change if you, for instance, break it or something like that. You can see, well, design on the back. Let me know what you guys think of it. I'm not the biggest fan of design. Generally, I'm not the biggest fan of crossover SUVs because they just, I don't really know why they exist, because they're not practical. They use a little bit of space. They're not going to be faster. It really just depends on it. We also have our camera down here, which is always out. We only have a rear view camera. We don't have a 360-degree camera, but it does actually have a pretty cool feature, which we're going to take a look at in a second. And one thing, for the rear lights, you only have them on the side here. So if somebody comes from the other side and doesn't see that you're backing up or doesn't see your light, well, I don't know, it's a little bit of a safety feature that I don't completely understand. We also don't have an electrical foldable or electrical open trunk in here, but we do actually have a fairly decent size in here considering that we do have a crossover SUV. You can see the loading lip in here is not the biggest, but therefore we have a loading capacity of 510 liters up to 1,360 liters, which is fairly decent. We're going to flip over the seat so you can see that right now. But we don't have any practical storage space on the side. So if you have small if you buy anything small, you don't have anything on the side where you can just easily pop them in. We do also have a little bit of storage space below here where we can put our charging cables in there. That's just going to allow for one cable because the other one is most likely not going to fit in there completely. You can also get a towing hitch on here, which is going to allow you to tow 61 kilograms. So you're not going to be able to tow anything, but you can, for instance, put, if you want to put some bicycles on there, you can put that on there. 580 euros extra, that's going to cost you, however, so a little bit of a pricier stuff. But let's actually see the inside. And let's take a look at the inside, because in here we actually have a fairly good standard equipment, like I already said. One thing that we do have extra on here are these seats, which are, well, this fabric kind of fake leather, which is going to cost you 500 euros extra. They have an interesting design bar on the top here. I don't know if I really like this. It's also on the side doors. We'll look at that in a second here. But again, they are fairly comfortable. They do also have a massage function. They have heated seats and also electrical for the driver's side. And while speaking about the design, let's take a look at the side, because we can see that design continues in there. Fairly decent quality wherever you touch, but then door handle above that is going to be hard plastic. You'd kind of expect it at the price range, even though it's a little bit expensive, but if Volkswagen ID.5 had even more plastic. If we look at the center console, we do have this big infotainment display, which is nice. Let's actually also quickly turn this on so we can see a little bit more. Automatic climate control, we have some loading spaces down here, USB-C and a USB cable, 12-volt charging port down here, and some more storage space below that. You can see center console is going to be the same as in any other Stellantis car, because we have the same brake mode, we have the gear selector, basically the same in here, which is in any other Stellantis. We have 2 cup holders in the center here as well, and a little bit more storage space right down here. But then steering wheel, we're also going to look at that once we're driving. We got this interesting looking digital cluster display with like backlight to it. I'm not the biggest fan of it, because we do also have a heads-up display, comes standard with it as well, so lots of stuff that actually comes standard. And they don't work that well together. They don't work that well together, because it's just like in the ID.5, most of the stuff that you see on the digital cockpit you see on the heads-up display as well, so you don't really need both of them. And now, because we're on a road, that allows us to test out most of the safety features in here. The car comes with a lot of standard safety features, which is nice. For instance, heads-up display always comes standard with it, which gives you all the relevant information, which is nice. You can see we do also have our speed detection or speed sign detection on there. Blind spot assistance, we have that. We have automatic cruise control, adaptive cruise control, city brake assistance, stuff like that. So we can actually test out the speed in here. So if we press the OK, you can see, okay, it is at our current speed of 99. And then we can see on the heads-up display, if we press these different buttons, we can see assistance off. We can have our limiter on there, drive assist. So if we press that now and we press on OK, then we can have it, if it detects the, there we go, now it's in green, so it should automatically steer into this corner, and it does. It does actually do a fairly good job if the lanes are very visible, and therefore it can detect all of them, and then it does a fairly decent job. One thing I haven't tested, actually, if it detects these signs in front and then also slows down. Let's do that, because it's a town now, so it should slow down to 50. But it doesn't. Okay, I'm not going to be speeding in here with 100 kilometers an hour into a 50. Okay, it did detect it now. Okay, so you have to press the OK button for it to automatically adjust down, so it doesn't do that automatically. But like I said, it works very good. We do have adaptive cruise control, like I said, so if you have somebody in front, it's obviously going to keep the distance, and it has been doing a fairly good job with that. So again, good for your driving comfort. And if you do want to change the views a little bit of the digital cockpit, you can, for instance, press the button on the side, just like in the other Stellantis car, and you can go into the power, or you can also go into the, well, assistant, basically, which is just going to give you a little bit of a different view, but it really doesn't change much. If you take a look at the infotainment display, it is fairly big and also comes standard, which is nice. And in here, if we have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, wireless, which is also good. And again, same as in the end of the Stellantis car. You don't have any adaptive loading, which is a little bit hindering if you like that. But yeah, infotainment display works fairly decent, and it's basically all that you need to know. In the back, we do also have the same seats and also the same design. As you can see, we do again have that like white touch on there. Can you see it on the camera? Yeah, we got that white touch in there, and we got manual adjustable headrests, which is nice because sometimes they're just not adjustable at all, which is good. When it comes to the space that we have in here, we do have fairly good leg room, so space in here is fairly decent. Seating height is a little bit, well, could be a little bit, the bench could be a little bit higher just so you can rest your leg on it, so your upper leg, which would be nice. Headroom is not that great, to be honest, because it's that crossover SUV, you're not going to have that much space. I'm around 5'11" or 1.80 m tall, and I'm almost hitting my head. The quality here is not the greatest, so you can push it in a little bit more to give you like around 2 centimeters more space. But we do have also a panoramic window in here, which you can't currently configure, but we do have it on here. But that is also, when you look at the quality here, yeah, the material up here is not the greatest, and definitely some cheap stuff in there. But the panoramic window doesn't go that far back, which is a little bit unfortunate. So you don't actually get to experience much when you're sitting in the back. In the center, we do have we have USB-C and a USB down here, and some climate control, but you can adjust the temperature. We also don't have heated seats in the back, we do have them in the front. Quality-wise, exactly the same as in the front, but you do have a couple of storage spaces here, but you're not going to be able to put a big water bottle in there. And also the center console here, you have 2 cup holders in there and a little bit of storage space down here. And another thing that's pretty cool, you can actually flip this over, so you can load 1 pair of skis to there, or 1 plank, whatever you want to load in there. So a little bit of a nice touch in there. We do also have a fairly low turning radius of 10.9 meters, which is going to make it fairly easy to drive in city. Road noise is not that much, so tire noise is actually basically non-existent. The only thing that does exist a little bit is the wind noise. The wind noise in here is fairly big. That might be a little bit due to the fact that we also have a panoramic window in here. That's always going to increase the wind noise a little bit. But the inside here just sometimes feels a little bit loud. Top speeds are 150, and even at that speed, it's okay. You can have a good conversation in here, and obviously the wind noise is not going to be that loud that you're not going to be able to hear anybody in the inside, but it's going to allow you to have a fairly comfortable talk in here as well when going 150 kilometers an hour. But in here, ride quality, like I said, you also have a fairly good seating position, obviously, because you can adjust it fairly good. It does feel fairly comfortable, and with the massage function and stuff like that, it's just going to give you good quality in general when driving. And these seats, 500 euros extra, but they're actually fairly comfortable and give you good butt support as well, which is nice. The other thing that's not so nice, however, is the steering wheel, in my opinion. It's a little bit uncomfortable to rest your fingers on there because you have this like fairly big or this, how do you say it, like this plastic bit on the center, which is for all your assistant features, but it's just a little bit hard to rest your fingers on there, and in general the shape is just a little bit weird. When it comes to the steering in general, it just feels a little bit light, especially when you're going slow. The steering is very light, but in here you can see it's fairly direct, and it wobbles the car around fairly good as well. So the chassis in here is a fairly wobbly chassis, so nothing sporty that you're going to be allowing you to go fairly sporty on the corners. In general, you're not going to be driving this car anywhere sporty with 136 horsepower, which again you only get at some time. Usually you're going to be riding at 77 horsepower. Surrounding view in here is also fairly decent because that rear view window is actually very big. As you can see, it basically fills up the whole rear view window, which is nice. But one thing that is a little bit hindering is the D pillar in there. We do have a C and D pillar because there's a small window between them. If I have an opportunity to look here back in there in a second, you can see it is fairly big, that D pillar, which is gonna be a little bit intrusive if you're trying to park from back. So parallel parking is gonna be a little bit intrusive because you also do only have a rear view camera, not a full 360-degree camera, but in general, rear view or the surrounding view is fairly decent. And because it is again a Stellantis car, you do have these similar features in here. For instance, you do also have the drive modes in here. So if we press that, we can see in the digital cockpit we have Sport, Eco, and also Normal. If we go into the Sport, it's just going to allow you to give those full power all the time and just give you a little bit more of a direct steering feel, and normal stuff like that. And you can also, if you want to go full eco-friendly, you can go into the eco mode, and you can also press the B button, and you can see recuperation is going to be a little bit stronger, but it's not as strong as you might expect from other models. So the recuperation here is not the strongest, so you don't feel the biggest difference between normal driving and D and brake modus, which we're going to show you in a second as well. So here, if we go, now you can see recuperation in D, and then if I press B, it's not that much stronger. It definitely does have a little bit of recuperation, but it's not as strong as you can see, so it's definitely not a one-pedal drive. So that's my final verdict on the Citroën E-C4 X. Well, you actually get a lot of stuff that comes standard with the car. Considering that you get it for 36,500 euros with the environmental bonus that you can get in Germany, otherwise 40,000 euros, you get a lot of stuff that you get standard in there. Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, you get a lot of heads-up display, you get a digital cockpit, which is really nice. And the car is fairly good. I know crossover, not really my opinion, I wouldn't personally get that. But with the range, it is also okay, but not for a car that you'd expect to buy for the price and consider your main car. And with the loading speed, I don't know, maybe it depended on something that happened to our loading station or whatever, but it really is underwhelming. 59 kilowatts, you're gonna be taking a lot of time with that. But hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.